The food that you eat affects your fertility. We are not having this conversation enough. And what we end up with is women sitting in doctors' offices wondering why they are struggling to get pregnant, or why they are getting pregnant and having miscarriages, or why their cycles aren't regular, and nutrition being left out of the conversation entirely. The food that you eat has a direct impact on your body and your hormones and your fertility and all of the systems of your body that affects that. We have the research that shows us time and time again that nutrition is something that is easily modifiable, that can have a significant impact on your fertility. Now, nutrition being one of the most modifiable factors, what does that mean? It means that it's something we can easily change. It is something that we have in our control when we are trying to conceive to support our body in many different ways. Nutrition has the ability to produce high quality eggs. It has the ability to support your hormones, supporting your thyroid, and then therefore your other hormones. Nutrition supports your gut health. That plays a role in your body's ability to get and stay pregnant. Nutrition, when you have the support to make it happen, can correct deficiencies that we're just taking supplements for. Supplements are there to just bridge a gap. They are not the foundation. Nutrition needs to be the foundation. The challenge with that is it is very confusing, very overwhelming. And as I said before, women are not getting this information from their care providers. They're just not. It is often a missing piece of the puzzle. The other piece to that is that many of us are scared to eat certain foods because of the way that nutrition and foods have been marketed to us as women over the last several decades. We have a chronic fear of carbohydrates as women, an unnecessary one, if you ask me. And many of the women that I work with as a fertility nutritionist are chronically under eating. They are not consuming enough calories for their body to do its everyday basic functions, one of which is reproduction. When your body feels stressed from under eating, one of the first things it's going to turn off or kind of shut down or not worry so much about is reproduction, because it doesn't feel like it's essential at that point. Other parts of your body need the nourishment. So this is where chronic undereating or years of heavy, intense exercise and underfueling can then have impacts on your nutrition or impacts on trying to conceive. Undernourishing, you might not even realize you're doing it. You might be starting your breakfast with what feels like a healthy breakfast. Maybe you've got one egg and a piece of toast and a side of fruit. But when we look at that meal as a whole, and we break it down into the macronutrients, the carbohydrates, the fats, and the protein, there really isn't enough there for what your body needs. Eating healthy and eating for fertility are actually different. There's a lot of overlap, but they don't look exactly the same. And this is one of the things that I focus on with my clients is when they are under eating, even if it's not on purpose, we work to slowly begin to bring in more calories, yes, because we need to support your body's metabolism and the ability to ovulate regularly, ovulate high quality eggs, have hormones that are healthy so that we can get pregnant and then stay pregnant. And that requires food. Food is fuel. And it is, as I said, not something to fear. Carbohydrates, for example, there are very healthy forms of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are essential for building your hormones. Fats, we don't have to fear fats. Fats are needed for hormones. And the other aspect of that is as you move into pregnancy, when you do have that chance to become pregnant and that pregnancy continues, the demands on your body, the nutritional needs of your body are only going to keep increasing. So in order to sustain that and continue to meet the demands and provide your baby with what they need, you need to be eating enough fuel, and that is food. there is a very simple formula that I follow with my clients because we want to ensure that they have stable blood sugar. Blood sugar is a big factor when we're talking about trying to conceive, especially if you're someone who's been struggling with PCOS, or you're waking up when you're not really hungry, or you do eat, but then you're going like a 5 or 6 hour stretch before you're eating another meal. That's a stress on the body, whether you feel fine or not. That is a stress on the body to try and maintain healthy blood sugar levels without fuel coming in. And maintaining a healthy blood sugar balance is a lot easier than you might think. There isn't a big long list of like restrictive foods. It's very important to me that when I'm working with my clients, we're not restricting food groups. We're working on adding and bringing in more because that's always easier. And as I said, so many women are already restricting and under eating, or, on the internet, on TikTok, looking at like what foods are good for fertility, what foods should I avoid. And there's so many videos you can find with like long lists of like absolutes, can't have or have to have. And that's not good. There's no such thing as one size fits all. That also doesn't factor in a lot of like cultural foods that people enjoy, and the fact that food is also enjoyment. Like, I never want someone to suddenly not enjoy eating anymore because we're cutting a whole bunch of things out. So I don't work that way specifically. I am always about what can we add. So when we are wanting to support our fertility, there are many things that you can do when it comes to food. The basic one that I'm going to teach you here in this video is what I said was called the PFF method, which just stands for protein, fat, and fiber. And this is a very simple way to ensure that each and every meal you're eating enough protein, you're getting enough fiber, which is going to help balance your blood sugar. Also, fiber comes from plants, from roughage, from the foods that are going to have also bright colors to them. So they're going to also have these micronutrients, these vitamins and minerals, the phytochemicals, the antioxidants that are going to support your egg quality and reduce inflammation. That is where we want to ensure, that is why we want to ensure that fiber's on the plate. The other thing that fiber is going to do is support your gut health, because fiber is also bringing in plants. The more diversity, the better. But some of these act as prebiotics, which fuel and feed the good bacteria inside your gut. So ensuring that you've got fiber on your plate, and then fat. So protein, fat, fiber. The protein is going to come from a meat source, an animal source. If it's a plant-based source, there are options. I like to stack and layer them if we're going to have multiple plant sources, just so we can make up enough amino acids and have the enough protein there. But primarily, a lot of my clients were working with omnivore diet, so they are eating meat. And on the fat side of things, we don't want to fear fat. It is not bad for you. In the 90s, everything was low fat, so then they added sugar to it so it tasted better. You do not have to fear fat. There is enough research on these fats, on what we call healthy fats, that support hormones and your baby's brain health, that we need them in our diet. So these can come from sources like nuts and seeds. So like walnuts, Brazil nuts, flax seeds, chia seeds, cold water fish like salmon, for example, sardines, anchovies. Those are also going to be sources of omega-3 fat, which is beneficial for reducing inflammation, which is going to then provide a protective effect on the body. That's also going to be essential for your future baby's brain health. We can get healthy fats from coconut, from avocados. There is so many sources, olives and olive oil. There are lots of options and easy ways to incorporate these into your diet. So when you are looking at protein, fat, and fiber, the PFF method in real life, what does that look like? So for breakfast, for example, that might look like, 2 eggs scrambled with a little bit of egg whites. That's our protein source. Maybe we have some roasted sweet potatoes on the side. Yes, I'm adding vegetables to breakfast, but those sweet potatoes are going to be the fiber. They're going to bring in the fiber, the colors. We're going to have some beta carotene in there, other vitamins and minerals. And then the fat is also going to come from the eggs too. So almost anytime you have a protein on your plate, If it's not plant-based, you're also naturally going to have a fat there. But if this were a client who's trying to conceive specifically, then we're going to bump that up a little bit more. Maybe we're going to sprinkle a little bit of hemp seeds on top of some berries on the side. So maybe we're going to increase the fiber a little bit with some raspberries, sprinkle a little bit of hemp seeds on them, or maybe instead of sweet potatoes, we do a piece of like a whole grain toast with a little bit of natural almond butter on there. Maybe that is the fat and the carbohydrate. There's room to kind of play around with this. If you are building a dinner plate, for example, we're going to have a quarter of that plate be your protein source. So let's say it's a piece of salmon. Half your plate is going to be your fiber source, which is your vegetables. Lots of color. Put in as much color and variety as you can. You can add a fat on top of the vegetables. So we have fat in the salmon, but adding a little drizzle of olive oil or sprinkle of pumpkin seeds or a sprinkle of hemp seeds on top of the fiber there, on top of the veggies. And then you can also add a carbohydrate to the plate, like a slower digesting carbohydrate, squash, beets, sweet potatoes, something like this. Now, this is just general information. This is not how building a plate might work specifically for you. That is where we can dive deeper one-on-one. I'll have information for that linked in the description for you. But that is the general guideline we want to follow: a protein, a fat, and a fiber. And there are many, many options to build that out. Like if I'm working with someone with PCOS, for example, and blood sugar is very important that we're balancing this, then that slow carbohydrates might just be once or twice a day. We're not doing it at every single meal necessarily. So this is where I said there's nuance. There is no such thing as one size fits all, which is why this conversation needs to be had more often. This is why we cannot have the conversation of fertility and trying to conceive and leave out nutrition completely, because that's just not an option. This is also why I wrote the Fertility Foundations Guide. This is my guide to creating a fertile foundation, essential ways that you can just boost your fertility through foods, through shifting behaviors. Like when you wake up and have coffee for breakfast and no food, that can spike your cortisol, increase inflammation, and we're going to cause problems with your blood sugar for most people. So shifting that to, oh, now I'm having breakfast with my coffee. We don't have to eliminate it, but this is where the Fertility Foundations Guide could be helpful, because it's going to lay out things that you can easily shift every day, as well as foods you can bring in, recipes to go with those foods. They're also something your partner can do, right? There are two people involved in this. And if you have a male partner, then we want him on board in doing the same things that you're doing as far as nutrition goes, to be supporting his health, because there's also key nutrients and vitamins and minerals that he's going to need more of to optimize his reproduction. So that's also going to be available, linked below for you. You can have a closer look at that, as well as working with me one-on-one. Everything is going to be linked for you below, so you can have a closer look and decide that maybe this is for you, because maybe you have been trying to conceive for a little while and you just want to get pregnant and it's not working. And now you're doing all of the tracking, you're doing the tests, you're trying to time everything, you're feeling like it's not working, you're now second guessing everything that you've been doing. Maybe you feel like you're doing something wrong. And I promise you that you're not doing anything wrong. You are not broken. Things start to get really overwhelming and trying to conceive starts to take over your life very quickly. But the one thing that no one is telling you about your fertility is that it's not about timing and tests and tracking. Those things matter. But what matters more is how supported your body feels every single day. That's what's ultimately going to lead to ovulating regularly, ovulating high quality eggs, having the balanced hormones, having the internal environment, the fertile internal environment that feels safe enough for reproduction to happen. If this resonates with you, please let me know. I am so looking forward to chatting with you, and see you soon.